Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, eventually the United States of America is going to have to pay the piper one way or another. There's no way that we can continue to increase the amount of debt that we have and not have to pay for the consequences down the road. Today on this video, I would like to go over real quick what Argentina's been through after President Milei took over and what we can expect to happen to us here when the dollar is finally replaced or it goes to zero, just like every fiat currency in the history of mankind has gone. Now, ladies and gentlemen, understand that whatever Argentina is going through, we here in the United States, in my opinion that is, are going to have to go through something that's probably going to be tenfold as bad as what they're going to. Not only do we have a lot more debt, but we do have a lot more people. And we also have to remember about all of the unfunded liabilities that we have, in excess of $200 trillion of unfunded liabilities. AP, what's an unfunded liability? It is a promise made to we the people by the United States government. But the problem is that the government has to take from we the people in order to give back to we the people. It's just a transfer of wealth from one to the other. Success and setbacks. 100 days of Argentina's Milei. Once in office, he cut the cabinet in half to 9 ministries and slashed 50,000 public jobs. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, it's going to be a lot worse here in the United States. In the United States, last time I remember, directly and indirectly, there are over 30 million jobs for the federal government. What's going to happen when a lot of those redundant jobs that the federal government hires on go away? What's going to happen when the federal government starts to use AI in order to do a lot of the jobs that can be done by AI now, because they realize that it's one way that they can impose austerity upon the public and not really diminish the quality of the work that's going on. And you can just see, etc., 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 all of the things that they're going to have to cut. He suspended all new public works contracts and ripped away generous fuel and transport subsidies. Milei has come under fire for shutting down the state news agency and anti-discrimination agency and removing funding from scientific research and the cinema industry. Pretty much, he's removing funding from things that are not critical to the government to be able to function for those things that it's supposed to be doing for the people. So funding for the fish that are on cocaine and how they made and all that kind of stuff that you always hear Senator Rand Paul every year cry out as how the government is wasting money. All of that funding is going to go away. And the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, is that in my opinion, when that funding goes away, it's not because we're going to have someone in there that says, yes, let's go ahead and cut this, cut this, cut this, cut that. It's because we're going to be forced to do it because our dollar is going to be so devalued. That is why they want us to go into a CBDC so bad, because they know what's coming. So if you know this ahead of time, you should be getting prepared for the day when your dollar buys you, maybe, if you're lucky, 1/10 of what it used to buy you. We are going to go back to a simpler place in time when the dollar finally goes away, because people are not going to be able to be on the back of the government the way that they are now. What you have to understand is that all of this borrowing that the government does, it is on the backs of your children's future, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what it is. The government is taking resources from the future, spending it now, and then what are the children going to have in the future except for all of this debt? I hope that makes sense. Milei took office warning things will get much worse for Argentines before they get better. And they have gotten much worse. But I see that in the future, if they continue down this road, that they would get better. He started out by devaluing the peso by 54% and removing price controls. Price controls never work. And being that Mr. Milei, or President Milei, is an economist by profession, he understood that as well. And that's probably one of the very first things that he did. Now, he had to devalue the dollar. Why? Because of the debt, ladies and gentlemen. He had no choice. It's going to get worse here as well before it gets better. And you can already see it getting worse. It's just compared to Argentina, the U.S. is getting worse in slower motion than Argentina did, because we haven't taken the bull by the horns like President Milei did. These measures, along with the removal of fuel and transport transport subsidies have seen Argentina's purchasing power plummet, causing a slowdown in consumption and economic growth. And it looks like this picture shows people that are protesting, more than likely people that were used to the subsidies that the government was putting out on the backs of other people. Now, let me not forget to remind you that this afternoon at 3 p.m. Alaska time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, we will be having our live stream here on this channel with Gray Man Prepping. So hope to see you all there. Milei announces Argentina's first budget surplus in 16 years. Ladies and gentlemen, when the government only spends what it brings in or less, guess what? You have budget surpluses and inflation gets fixed. It's not going to be fixed overnight, but it will eventually get fixed. Why? Less money in the system. But I think I got that from this article. Argentina's spending slashing new president Javier Milei has hailed his country's first quarterly budget surplus since 2008, an historic achievement. Now listen to this, their surplus wasn't pittance. In the first quarter of 2024, they counted a budget surplus of 275 billion pesos, all right, for Argentina, which comes out to about $309 million, which is incredible to do in 1 year, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my goodness, I'm very happy for Argentina. I know they're going through a rough time now, but if they get through this and they stay the course, they're going to be so much better off. If the state does not spend more than it collects, it does not issue money, there is no inflation. Doesn't that just make sense? You see, in the United States, when you hear that we collected let's say $5 trillion from taxes. I know last year was 4.7, but let's say 5 trillion from taxes, right? But we have a deficit of 2 trillion, right? That 2 trillion was pretty much added to the economy and nobody really earned it. Right, ladies and gentlemen? So what does that do? That increases the money supply that was collected by 40%. So do you think there's going to be inflation when we put more money into the economy than was collected? Yes, there is. If the state does not spend more than it collects, it does not issue money, therefore there is no inflation. I love that statement. This is not magic, he said. And here they say that he won his election because he vowed to bring deficits down to zero, and he has a target even more ambitious than required by the IMF, with whom Argentina has a $44 billion loan. And that's one thing that we want to stay away from. You know when I think the hammer's finally going to drop? When the IMF moves from the United States, when they move their headquarters from the United States to China, to Beijing, China. They've been working on that for a while. They've actually said that a few years back, that they're going to eventually move their headquarters to Beijing, China. When that happens, I believe that that's going to be a show of like abandonment, them abandoning us, and then that's when the party is really going to start, ladies and gentlemen. So get prepared and stay prepared. Don't worry, we're almost done. I wanted to make this quick because I have to get ready for this afternoon's live stream. To that end, he has instituted an austerity program that has seen the government slash subsidies for transport. We already did all of this stuff, but that has brought inflation up 290% year over year. Poverty levels have reached 60%, and wage earners has lost a fifth of their purchasing power. And what are they doing now, ladies and gentlemen? By them losing purchasing power, by inflation going up, what is it that's happening? They are now fixing the problem. They are paying the price to fix the problem. Why? Because now they are paying for all of the resources that they brought from the future by borrowing. Now they're paying for it by not being able to spend, right? Or by being able to spend a lot less with their money. That is what's happening. And that's why I said it's going to be a lot worse here in the U.S. because we've brought a lot more resources from the future into the now by spending with borrowed money. And eventually we're going to have to pay that back. And inflation is going to see to that. Thousands of public servants have lost their jobs. Don't expect a way out through public spending, he says. He says that's it. The game is over. No more borrowing, no more spending on stuff that we don't have to spend on just because it may look politically correct. It's over. University students backed by unions and opposition parties have called a march for Tuesday to protest financing cuts to higher public education, research, and science under the new president. So I encourage you, ladies and gentlemen, to take a look at Argentina, do a little more research on your own, and see what they're going through. I read a really great story here a while back, maybe a couple years ago, when inflation was really bad, I think worse than what it is now, that people actually developed their own money within like a farmer's market. They had like a flea market / farmer's market where anyone can come and sell anything that they wanted, but it was using their own currency within that little ecosystem that they developed themselves. These are things that we can learn from. Looking at other nations as they fail monetarily is an important lesson for us in order to be able to look and see what's going to happen here, except it's going to be a lot worse, not only because of all of the debt that we have, but that we are the reserve currency of the world. Having said that, again, I hope to see you this afternoon, 3 p.m. Alaska time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, with me and Gray Man. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.